How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into 14P Fantasy. I am your host, Justin Wright. Today, we are talking buy or sell. We got 3 names for you. And if you just watched yesterday's video and you think, buy or sell, that's pretty similar to breakout or bust. Yeah, it is. I mean, we gotta have names here. But instead of talking first, second year players, guys that we still don't know a ton about, we're talking established veterans. The 3 guys we're touching on today are Terry McLaurin, Damien Harris, and then David Montgomery. If there's other names you want us to touch on, a guy you want to see in the next video, drop that name below. We'll look through the comments and start adding players in. These will kind of be our trade value episodes moving forward. That's how we're going to structure it. So, a slight change with how we've been doing things as we continue to, modify the channel here. Before we get into those names, though, remember, guys, check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/14P Fantasy. Over there, you're going to get access to our Dynasty rankings, our rookie tiered rankings, our redraft, our weekly rankings, and some other stuff going on like RB volatility ratings, which we're going to talk about today with Harris and Montgomery. We'll even break down one of your Dynasty teams, a full 10 to 15 minute video talking trades, looking at your league, how to make your team better, giving you the brutal truth of whether you're competing or not, that kind of stuff. So check out the Patreon. And lastly, before we jump into it, if you like the video, if you like what we're doing here, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, give us that promotion. Lord knows we need it. All right, let's get into it. The first name, we already set him up top, it is Terry McLaurin. And Terry McLaurin is an interesting one because if you go back 12 months, I was sitting here saying, you have to buy Terry McLaurin. The dude is about to, burst onto the scene. Ryan Fitzpatrick hyper targets his wide receivers. There's a lot of volume to be had. They're going to sling it. Fast forward 12 months to today. That did not happen. None of that happened. I was just flat out wrong, which sucked. Terry McLaurin played 17 games, did not finish as a top 24 wideout, depending on scoring, but a lot of it can be attributed to, obviously Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt immediately, just right away. That definitely hurt. I mean, that is not the only reason he busted, though. I mean, if Ryan Fitzpatrick is not bust proof for wide receivers, we know that. Taylor Heineke played. He was not great. And now we're looking at Terry McLaurin heading into his 4th season with, as good as a top 20 wide receiver finish, the wide receiver 20. And we have to say, what do we do now? He's 26 right now. He'll be 27 in September. For a guy that has not given us or shown us an elite season in terms of fantasy production yet, I think it's time to move on, at least in Dynasty. Now, am I saying he's not going to contribute and be a good wide receiver? Absolutely not, because he is hyper talented. But the reason I'm happy to move him is by the time he hits free agency, that season he starts, he'll be 28 years old. He right now is stuck in QB hell. I mean, right now, the best case scenario, I think the most realistic scenario, is they end up with Jimmy G. And that will absolutely help Terry McLaurin. Don't get me wrong. That will be an upgrade. But is Jimmy G good enough for me to go all in on Terry McLaurin and pay the price that people want for him right now? It's not. He's not someone I'm actively looking to acquire. Again, I'm actively looking to sell him because, trust me, I bought him up everywhere last season because I was all in and things didn't break the way I thought they did. So now I'm looking at Terry McLaurin and the price, weirdly enough, has not moved a ton. He's still going to cost you, or, if you're trading him away, you can still get back, a late first round pick, a mid first, maybe you can get Rashad Bateman and a first, or Rashad Bateman and a pick, probably a second, not a first, or one I love and I've seen go down. I've seen Elijah Moore in the 206 go for Terry McLaurin. And honestly, I'm going to take that. There's not a guarantee Terry McLaurin outproduces Elijah Moore this season. So Terry McLaurin is, again, a great player. But I think if you're looking at it objectively, the timeline and what he has ahead of him just doesn't fit his current value. So because of that, I'm happy to sell Terry McLaurin right now. Next guy on our list, I'm trying to think. Do I want to go? Let's do it. Let's go Damien Harris, another player that is coming off of a great fantasy season. RB 14 on the year, walked in 15 touchdowns on the ground. But that's probably a best case scenario for Damien Harris. He is 25 years old. He's about to hit free agency, after the 2022 season. Obviously, we saw Ramondre Stevenson get comfortable in this offense, show he can be effective. And I think that's probably going to be enough for the Patriots to not re-sign Damien Harris. And on top of that, Damien Harris scoring 15 touchdowns, being the lead guy on the ground for the majority of the season, still only got him to RB 20 in points per game. I'm never going to project him over 15, 20 touchdowns. That's what he needs, though, to just be a top 20 running back in terms of, weekly production. That's terrifying. I mean, so let's kind of get into it. The RB volatility rating. We're looking at, how likely are players to hit their ceiling? How likely are they to go on 10 points, which we'll just assume is kind of the general floor. For us, we look at 32 running backs every season, and we use a 2-year rolling average of these numbers. Of the 32 running backs we looked at or added in this year, Damien Harris was near the bottom in most ratings. He came out as a C as a volatility rating, a player with a mid-level ceiling and a mid-level floor. He only eclipses 25 points 8% of the time. He's been under 10 points, 36% of the time. And his ceiling games really aren't all that high. So he is a interesting floor level player with a capped ceiling and just not a guy I'm happy to really have, especially at his price. Now, what you can trade him for varies league to league. It depends what people want to give up for him. But I've seen him go straight up swapped with Michael Carter. I will take Michael Carter in this instance. I have seen him traded for the 112 in a 1 QB league. And honestly, if I'm not an immediate contender and I don't need, a solid RB3, I'm going to move Damien Harris for a late first. I'm going to get the youth and take a chance on a guy that might be in the back of, Rashad White, Kyron Williams, Tyler Algier, whoever, and however those guys fall, in the NFL draft. I just think there's people you should pivot off, or you should be pivoting off of Damien Harris to younger players or guys that I think have a higher ceiling at the position. And don't get me wrong, the floor is nice and he is a good player. It's just, I don't think, again, another guy like Terry McLaurin, I don't think it matches his actual value. So if you can go and move him for those late first, I've seen him move for that in a couple of leagues, which shocks me. I'm not making that deal, but it's out there. If you can find the value for him, I think it's time and probably a smart thing to move off of Damien Harris. All right. Last guy on the list. And this one, I did this last season. I'm going to do it again. It is David Montgomery. David Montgomery, 24 years old, obviously in and out of the lineup this year, but when he came back, absolutely dominated touches over Khalil Herbert. David Montgomery is a buy for me. Again, if you're a contending team, if you're rebuilding, don't trade for running backs in the 4th year of their rookie contract. Just don't do that in general. But David Montgomery is undervalued always, every single season. So when you look at what he's done the last 2 years, he is over 25 points, basically 18% of the time, 17.9%. That is within 1% of Jonathan Taylor. It is a higher percentage than Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, Zeke, Antonio Gibson. And of the 32 running backs we looked at, that was actually the 8th highest rate. He gets this rap of, he's just a nice floor player and he has, some decent upside. That's not the case. He came in with an A volatility rating, at least by our metrics. And of the 32 running backs, only 8 guys came out with that. And you're talking CMC, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, and just how the numbers worked out. David Montgomery is in that group as well. So David Montgomery just gets a bad rap. I don't think there's enough talk about his actual ceiling. And then on the flip side, when you look at the floor, he had the 9th lowest percentage of games under 10 points the last 2 seasons, coming in at 21%, just to give you some perspective there. The number 1 player over the last 2 years is obviously it's Alvin Kamara, or excuse me, it is Austin Eckler at 11%. That is the top of the top. And funny enough, of the players we looked at, the bottom is Cam Akers at 66%. And that's skewed because injuries and whatever else. But that's the range we're working with there. So he has been unbelievably effective and consistent, and he gives you access to a crazy high ceiling. And again, when you're looking at that, percentage under 10 points, that's better than guys that are deemed to have higher floors than David Montgomery. That's a better rate than Najee, better rate than DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Zeke, Chubb, Gibson. He should be, in redraft, he has a case to be valued higher than a lot of these players, and he's not going to be. And because of that, he's going to be coming at a discount in Dynasty as well. He's a player, you probably have to give up the 107 plus a little bit more for him. And honestly, that's worth it. You're getting a guy that is in my mind, a top 15 running back, at least for this season. There's already talks of an extension to keep him with the Bears, especially while Fields is on that rookie deal. They're going to have a little bit of extra cash to play with. So if he's staying in Chicago, he's not hitting the market. His workload feels very safe. So because of that, I'm happy to give up the 107 plus a little bit more. Or, if I'm a true contender, I'm going to take, the 105 for David Montgomery, or I'll give up the 105 for David Montgomery. If you're looking to get over the hump, David Montgomery can get you there. Again, obviously health is a concern. It always is for every running back. However, David Montgomery has shown he has access to a crazy high ceiling. His top 5 average, his best 5 games over the last 2 years, that is better than DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb, Zeke, Gibson, Najee Harris. Again, all highly valued running backs, and rightfully so, but David Montgomery belongs in that conversation, and he's just not valued there. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. If you like what we're doing here, again, subscribe to the video, or subscribe to us, like the video. If you got questions, comments, feedback even, hit me up below in the comments, guys. As always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.
How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.